Ready to start your journey? Whether it's your first workout or you are a seasoned athlete, Endurance for Everyone Coaching wants to work with you. Our coaching team has worked with athletes from beginners to USAT national qualifiers and are comprised of experienced runners, cyclists, and triathletes who have a passion for healthy living and have been where you are. We offer comprehensive coaching programs from weekly support to basic consultation, all designed to help you achieve your goals. If you want to take your performance to the next level, look no further than Endurance for Everyone Coaching. Go to www.teamE4E.com and click on the coaching link or send an email to teamE4E@enduranceforeveryone.com. And let's get started.
Welcome to this week's Endurance for Everyone podcast.
The following program is for entertainment purposes only. Though the hosts of this show are certified Ironman coaches, their attempts at long-course triathlons and endurance events should not be taken as an endorsement for you to do something stupid too. You should make your own bad decisions, then podcast about it. Now, let's start the show.
Hey, this is John Harris.
And this is Rob Bozovich.
And Endurance is for Everyone, and this is the Endurance for Everyone podcast.
Hey, where everyone up here is surviving. We don't know, what's happening one day to the next with the weather. It was winter last week. It's, hot now. I mean, who knows? Next week might be winter again. We'll see.
Well, it started early down here. We've already had our first tropical storm. It wasn't a big deal, but, it dropped a lot of rain. And, luckily, it didn't hit us, but it kind of sideswiped us as on its way up to Mississippi. But we've already. It's not even hurricane season yet. Doesn't start till Friday. We've already had our first one.
That doesn't start till Friday. That's just kind of funny. It's like you guys schedule it. Like, is Friday good for everybody? Okay, yeah, we'll do it then.
That's funny. Yeah, what are you doing here? You're early.
Get out of here.
Get out of here, Alberto.
Nice.
Oh, man. So we got a lot of rain, and it kind of puts a damper on some of the training. I also had a medical procedure Friday, so it wasn't really till mid-Saturday that I was kind of feeling myself again, But
oh, John, so many openings in that. We're just going to let that one go.
They took 8 pieces of me, and now we get to wait. But it should be fine. Should be fine. Everything's fine. You know what fine stands for, right?
No, go ahead.
Well, I have to make it an E, but we'll say it anyway. Fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional.
Nice.
You're fine.
You're fine, John. I'm going to use that one later.
You're fine. So, we've had a lot of rain down here. It's been hot as blazes already, though. So you combine a lot of rain with a lot of heat, and that creates steam. So
I know this all too well.
Yeah. So we got I was about tired of it Sunday, and we just got to go do something. So I went out and did like the 10K route out at Starkey, and it poured on us during the rain during the run, but it wasn't lightning, so you just keep going.
Yep.
What I put online is true. The hardest part of the training session is getting the shoes on. Once the shoes on, you're fine.
I make very similar jokes to that. And that being said is like, I like nothing more than about mile 23 in a marathon when I feel like I'm dying, just to look at the person next to me and say, they said the hardest part was signing up. Right. They lied.
They lied. Yeah, it's not. Yeah. Yeah, the hardest part is getting out there, is getting up out of bed sometimes, That's what I joke about it with the triathlons always being so damn early, Disney races so damn early. The hardest part is getting out of bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. Once you're out there, you're fine.
I had halfway considered maybe looking at doing the whole kit and caboodle. Was it Goofy, Dopey, all 4 of them, But then, you when I say you almost talked me right out of that, because it's not. It's like you said. It's the fact that it's 4 days in a row of getting up that early.
Yeah,
one maybe, but it's just no. I'm good. I don't care that much.
You don't care them. You could probably do it. I had We tried it one year, like a long time ago, and I got through 2, and that was about it. I can't take that kind of pounding 3 days. And it's it's January and it's cold in the morning, but it still gets up to 80, 90, by midday in Florida. Depending, right. So, I mean, it can be 30, 40 degrees in the morning, but it's going to be blistering at night.
If you're in those later corrals, you got to be there early so they don't close on you.
That's right.
But then, you have to stand around. That's one whole set of bundling, so to say. And then it starts getting warmer, and the longer you're out there with no shade, it's that does make things tricky.
Yeah, you go make that trip to the Goodwill and buy all the like used sweatshirts and sweatpants you can find, and just dump them on the side of the road when the race starts. That's the way to do it.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. So we have to give a shout out real quick to Meghan Fanning, who is in Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, day 6 of the 888K Infinitus.
How many days total do they give them for that? I was trying to follow along, like with the photos, and then I have to instantly, I'm looking at what she's at, and then I'm like, okay, and then I put it in like Google and convert it to miles just to think of like how crazy far it is, and
Well, you can go to the website, the Endurance Society website, and they have a tracker that they actually have a Google Doc out there where they're tracking everybody, and they update it kind of a few times a day. So right now I'm looking at it. She is 179 miles in. So each loop is a 7 mile, a 10 mile, and a 10 mile. That's how they track it. So that's one, and you have to do that 21 times.
Okay.
So she is through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She is in the middle of the 7th one. She is through the 7 mile loop of the 7th one. So she's on the 10 for the first 10 mile loop. So she's, I hate to say this, she's not going to make it, but because you'd have to be through, after 6 days, you have to average 88.8 K a day, right? So it's 50 something miles a day. So after day 6, you'd have to be at 400 miles, and she's at 179. So the only person that really is going to make it is the one guy that made it, the one when I was there, Greg Salveson. He's at 314 miles right now. And to give you some percent, we know Meghan, she can run. She's in the 7th loop. This guy is in his 12th loop. So he's passed her a few times.
Still just crazy distance to think about total.
Right? Those even crazier, he's in the middle of the 12th loop, and he still has 9 more to go.
Yeah. There's a reason that I'm pretty sure that their logo is is like a crawling skeleton. Correct?
Yes, right.
There's a reason for it.
That's crazy. And like I said, I'm no barometer to measure against, but just doing that what I did up there, it's nuts. They've had good weather this year. That's the good thing. It's been clear skies, no rain.
Right.
So that's the good thing. It wasn't like when I was up there, but it does show you. I mean, one dropped out at 43 miles, one dropped out at, not at 43 miles, 43K. So they only made it like one loop.
Yeah.
The closest to Greg is Helene Dumas, who is there. She does it every year, and she's at 461K, but she's not even going to make it again. She tries every year, but she's behind too. So it's interesting to follow it. I like the fact that they put this tracker up there now. So Karen Clark keeps messaging me, and we're talking about it offline.
Yeah,
trying to figure out, okay, where's she at? Is she going to make it? I don't know. It's going to be close. She was with it for a while, but you can tell when people start taking rest periods,
Right.
But you can't do it 10 days. You can't do that without resting at least a little bit, right?
No.
So
you almost, and it goes back way down to the beginner level, which we're not even talking about just straight up, ultra athletes here. It's the Galloway method of run and walk. The most important rest is the first one. And, it's getting enough rest adequately early on in order to continue with whatever your plan is.
And that is the trick. You have to rest at the beginning, because if you don't, it's not going to matter at the end. You can rest all you want. You're still going to be burnt.
Right.
And, but these guys, all the people doing this, you don't go out there and do an 888K without knowing what you're getting into, so they all know that. But I think the plan usually is to do 2 full loops and before you take a rest. So, so about 100 miles, and then you rest a little bit, a few hours if you can, and then go again.
Right.
But best laid plans.
Yeah. I mean, you don't know what the day, the weather. If your loop 2 is going to end and it's the perfect temperature, do you keep going, or do you have to stop early because it's too hot or rainy or whatever? Yeah,
or whatever, right? She posted a picture today. I don't know if you saw it. It was on her page. So she posted a picture of her legs in the compression boots.
I was going to say I saw that and I want to say I've seen them, and I believe it's a brand, not necessarily a name, or I'm sorry, however you want to say that. I know Normatec makes a set like that, and it's like the inflatable. For those who don't know, haven't seen it, it's like almost like a full leg cast looking thing, but it basically has the zone, so it massages and moves the blood through your muscles quicker.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever tried one?
I have not. I thought about it, but then I realized I'm not that serious of an athlete.
They are. Well, you are, but they are amazing. I will tell you. I tried one after a sprint triathlon in Claremont. They had them, just people to try them.
Yeah, my
legs felt amazing after that. Like even a sprint, my legs are usually pretty toast. Especially if I've really pushed hard.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, my legs after getting through with that session, I was fine.
Yeah,
it was amazing, and I know that Randy Messman owns a set. And he swears by him too.
If he's ever done with them and wants to send them up my way, we can work a deal. I remember it might have been him / the Octane Athletics, discussing, because one of them gave a tip, and I highly debated it for like a week, because they said get your doctor to basically write a prescription, because then, like me, I have a high deductible plan, so I'm going to spend the first $1,500 out of pocket anyways. So if I'm going to do it, I might as well buy those, but then it knocks off like 3/4 or 2/3 of my deductible.
That's true. That's true.
Because so then therefore it's not like I'm asking them to buy it and then they question it, but it's durable medical equipment that counts towards whatever. So I debated that, especially in the year when my son was born, because then that would have helped, and I knew we were going there anyways, but we had much other medical expenses like the birth of my son to worry about. So priorities, didn't want the hospital to repo him. So
freaking life. So you brought up Octane Athletics. Did you see that Dave had a bike crash? Dave Jimenez?
I can't say that I saw that. No.
Oh, yeah. I was just flipping through Facebook one day, and he was talking about, I guess it was pretty bad. Tore up you put a picture of his Apple Watch. It was shattered. So,
yeah,
I haven't heard, I follow things on and off, and then I saw he had posted a picture of his helmet and his sunglasses and everything, and they were just shattered.
Yeah.
So that's rough. I mean, Megan's been there. I've never really crashed, but Jennifer's crashed.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a bad crash?
I'm gonna say no.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've had a couple of the stupid little you fall over to stop signs, and I had 2 looked awesome. I walked away without a problem, and that was like in my first couple of years of riding. And it was like, one was on my brother's hybrid and one was on mine. And that being said, is one, I came down a hill, turned into literally, it was a covered bridge, one of those wooden, like I don't even know if you have them down there, and but the floor is wooden. So that being said, is like my brother says, all he heard was bang, 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 bang. And the bike came tumbling out the other side, wheel over wheel. I don't even kind of know what happened, but like flat pedals, flat shoes. I wasn't locked in. I hit the bridge and just like something caught, my feet went off the pedals, I hit the bars, they just once again end over end, I walked away without getting hurt. Same deal, I was riding his bike, and just when I was crossing a set of railroad tracks, I wasn't I was less than 45 degrees. So if you're ever crossing railroad tracks, you want to cross them at 90-degree bike to rail. Always go for 90. Don't shoot for less than 45, but you always go for 90. But anyways, and the wheel got caught, and I went end over end on that one as well. Busted the derailleur off the back end of his bike, but I was fine. So, but that's it. Knock on wood. Nothing serious with it. So,
we had when we were training for Tahoe, we had one of our riders go down on a railroad tracks because he didn't hit it right, and it was actually raining, so it was even it was even slicker. I crawl over railroad tracks. They freak me out anyway because I can see that happening.
Right.
Yeah, he went over, and luckily wasn't hurt. But those are the little things that you can walk away from, or they cripple you.
Yes.
It's like
and you never know which way it's going to be.
Right. And Megan's thing was like that. It was a simple thing. Mm-hmm. And she went over the top, and you saw how she cracked pelvis, everything. Mm-hmm. So I saw that about, I'm kind of looked it up. Yeah. And it says, it's not really saying a lot about the crash, but yeah, scratched up helmet, eyeglasses. Yeah. 6 stitches, I guess. Mm-hmm. That's not too bad.
No.
We've been around and saying, 6 stitches.
Yeah, rub it off. Rub some dirt on it.
Come on. So yeah, I guess he's okay, but it's scary. And the thing is like you got to get back on that bike as soon as you can.
Yeah,
because that will play with your head.
Yes.
We saw Meghan. Going back to Meghan, she's had a problem with it getting back on the bike, and I think you need to do it as soon as you can.
Right.
And you can't. I think almost. You may disagree, but I think almost when you have a wreck like that, you have to think about it. You have to replay it. I think the more you think about it, the less scary it is. In a way, I guess. Do you not?
I don't agree or disagree, and it's one of those things where I don't want to blindly say yes and here's why, or no and here's why, because every person is. You can take 2 people. Now that being said, one can be one way on it and one could be the other, but we're talking about rules of thumb for the whole group, whole population, if you will. Yes, I think you need to think it through, because it's not, I don't even know how to say it this way, but let's just use a haunted house as an example. When you're a little kid and you get scared and whatever, okay? Yeah. It's not, maybe it is the entire thing, but really when you break it down, it's, well, this part wasn't bad and this part wasn't bad, but it was that one room with the one thing with the, what is the one thing that's really causing you that anxiety or the issue? Use the same thing is, hey, you want to analyze when I say what happened, so that way, was it your fault? Could you have done something different? What can you avoid? And, just thinking it through to know what steps and precautions you can take for the next time.
Yeah, and he did that, and I like how he did it. He said some thoughts on the crash and what I learned and things like that. But I really like what he said here. I'm just reading it right off his page, but it says, "Slow the heck down. I didn't need to be going as fast as I was at the time this happened. We get so focused on speed, and we miss the big picture of enjoying the ride. I was going to do hill repeats. Why the hell did I need to care about or want to make it to the bottom of that hill so fast? It started the grind up just to start the grind up sooner. That was dumb. Take the downhill easy. Enjoy the recovery for a few extra seconds." So I guess so he admits to what he did, right? He's just trying to go too fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's good. And now the last thing he says is like, "I've gotten the question about 10 times. Will you ride again? You bet your molasses sweet ass I will, as soon as I can." Which
awesome.
Awesome. Kind of knew that about him though.
Yep.
So you had a little adventure over the weekend. Let's talk about
I did.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us about that?
Okay.
Why don't you tell us about that?
Oh, tell me a little more. Well, okay. So, and I want to say it this way. I'll just, and this is editing or producing the show as we do it. How's about, and John, I cut those clips together. Why don't we go ahead and string those clips together, put that in the show right here, okay. And then I'll go ahead and give my complete wrap up. I don't want to repeat myself when I say 3 times. I don't want to say some things now, then have it be in the clip, and then throw it in the recap. So let's drop those clips here, and then we'll come back on the back side, and I'll go ahead and talk about it.
All right, so let's roll it now.
7:25 a.m., morning of Friday the 25th. Brian and I caught a ride down last night from my dad, went out to dinner with some friends of his, got a good night's sleep, up, showered, bikes are packed, and we're ready to hit the trail. Next check-in will be at Point State Park, starting on the trail, and updates along the way. About an hour and 42 minutes into the ride, according to my bike computer. 22.83 miles in. On the computer, 20:02 on my watch. They're about the same. Difference there is riding over from the hotel on one versus starting on the trail. We pulled off, got a fresh supply of water, Had a couple bars just so we could stay out ahead of nutrition needs. Trail's really nice and flat. A lot of people on it, surprising. I guess it is a holiday weekend, although it is a Friday morning, so you figured, people took off work to come do this. Check in later. Lunchtime. We pulled over and in West Newton, about 34 miles in or so. We got lunch at Subway, one of the only things open, but got a little something to eat. Has never tasted better. Beautiful weather day. Got to be probably about low 80 temperatures at this point. Perfect humidity. We're having a little lunch, so we're getting back on the road here in a minute, and we're going to probably do another half to 3/4 of what's left, and we're planning to stop in Conneldsville, which looks like it's just a little over halfway. That gives us a nice break and last stretch to fuel up, get some water, because luckily the last 17 or 20 miles in, there's really nothing to Ohiopyle, and we'll end there, which is 78 miles or so in for the conclusion of day one. Check in again later. All right, guys, it's about 4:05. We got into Ohiopyle at about 3:30. I don't have the exact date in front of me. I will when John and I are doing this show and piecing this together. But it ended up being about just over 5 hours of riding, less than 5.5, I believe. I think we averaged about a 15 mile per hour average. Moving time, we stopped and, took a little break here and there and so forth. And day went really good. Ohiopyle, like I said, we're doing 75 one day, 75 the next. Ohiopyle is actually, they start counting down from Pittsburgh, 150, 140, 150, 149, 148, etc. Ohiopyle is actually just past 72, so it's a little over halfway. Good news is, hey, once you're over halfway here, which is nice. Bad news is at about, mile, 70, I'm going to say 4, probably about 2 miles out, got a wicked cramp. A muscle in my leg that I didn't even know was there, from the kneecap up through in the groin area. Cramped so bad, it was crippling because I just stopped, but I couldn't get off the bike because it was cramping so bad that it was, I couldn't pick my leg up. So I actually ended up laying the bike down and stepping over it and stretching it in this really weird, provocative, pose. Thank goodness nobody came by. Anyways, we made it here safe and sound. It's end of day one. Looking forward to going out, getting some grub. I looked, last time I looked, I know that the trail from Pittsburgh to the Continental Divide is 1,600 feet of climbing. And last I checked, I want to say we were over 1,000. I don't know if we quite hit 1,100 or not. So a majority of it has been today. And then tomorrow, morning, we'll do the remainder of the climb, Continental Divide around midday, downhill into Cumberland, probably about the same time, 5 hours of riding total. Leave at about 8 in the morning, arrive about 3 in the afternoon. So I'll catch a couple updates on the backside for that. The only interesting thing, the Garmin calculated, I don't know if it's correct or not, but it puts me at, just about 4,600 calories burned for the day. I just took age and weight. I wasn't wearing a heart rate monitor or anything, so I don't know how accurate that is. But I think I'm going to use that as a freebie to maybe have some fries or a milkshake or something with dinner, because I'm ravenous. Talk to you guys later. I was just going to update it before I forget. I just looked at a photo, and the actual stats are 5 hours, 41 minutes of moving time, 78 miles. We arrived at 3:29 p.m., and the calorie burn was 4,988. So, so you guys don't lose sleep. There's the specifics. This will be the last file, or clip here, I should say. But it's going to be a long one because it's going to be a combined for the whole second day. We got busy. When I said busy, we were moving along on the trail, so I didn't take individual clips along the way. We checked the weather night one there when we were in Ohiopyle, and the weather was calling to get thunderstorms and rain. starting, midday around 11, 12, 1, 2, depending on what part of the trail we were going to be on. So we made the choice to get up early. So we were up at 5 a.m. and we were rolling out on the trail just before 6 a.m. So we, Hiopao to the next town was about 11 miles. So we just had bars and water. We got to that town, we picked up a couple of snacks, and I got a cup of coffee. Things weren't even really open for breakfast yet because it was just getting about 7 a.m. or so, maybe even about 6:45 at that point. So then we rode on. We just kept riding town to town. The weather was much cooler since we were riding so early in the morning. We were in the mountains, and we were making pretty good time. The first day in the morning, we were averaging about 16.5 miles per hour. Day 2 was a little slower. We were doing about 13.5. We were at the elevation, plus you're on tired legs. Not much to report, which sounds funny, but we were there and out on the trail so early, it took us 2.5 hours before we saw another person. And then it was about hour 3, we saw our second person. But at that point, we had jumped probably half a dozen or more, maybe a dozen deer. You saw them jumping across the trail, and some of them ran alongside us for a while or out in front of us, and some just crossed directly over. We then, hit a couple things. Is there a couple really nice rail towns in there that we hit and we went through. I'll pull the map up whenever John and I do the full recap here as well. But one thing we had kind of forgot about or weren't really paying attention to is we kept looking, and because the signage actually doesn't say to the Continental Divide, it keeps saying to the Big Savage Tunnel and then to the Mason-Dixon line. So you start using that as your landmark, figuring it's all one. But actually the Continental Divide is a few miles before the Big Savage Tunnel, which so it actually, I'm not saying made it easier, but then we hit the highest point and started going downhill. So at that point, you stop and you get a photo at the highest point. Then we stop, got a photo of this really cool long tunnel. You get out the other side, there's immediately a great overlook. So I got a photo of that where you can see the mountain range and the valleys out in front of you. Go not very far, and then you're at the Mason-Dixon line. So once again, we stopped and got 3 photo ops there real quick. Then it was a big, just long, literally it was 25 miles of downhill at that point into Cumberland. So we made really good time because it was just much easier to pedal and going that way. You get to Cumberland. It's real easy to find because it's well marked in the trail list, to find when I say the mile zero. And so they actually have a pennant or a medallion in the ground that says, Gap Trail mile 0. Then they have one to the right that says, Gap Trail with an arrow pointing for the gap, and one says C&O because that's the break where it then becomes the C&O towpath to go to DC. And they have a really nice built up, they're rebuilding, I should say, their downtown area with places to eat. This old railway station that's 3 stories high, and they have it as a gift shop and kind of like historical, some information in there. Really nice place to go and to have, I didn't see that they didn't have any shower facilities. We really didn't catch anyone to ask. We just kind of rinsed up in a sink, changed our clothes. My wife was there to pick us up at that point, so we went and had lunch with her and packed up the bikes and got on the road. Day 2, because that long down, like I said, downhill. Day 1 was 5 hours and 40 minutes of riding. Day 2 was only 5 hours of riding, which worked out really nice. In addition, it was about the same amount of elevation climbing. I thought we had done the majority of it the first day. It was only a few miles short, but I don't know what happened. My GPS, for some reason, both of them, my bike computer and my watch, kind of cut out, and only they recorded about 5-10 miles less, because it's supposed to be about 70 miles the second day, and it was just because said 75, 75, right at about a halfway point. But once again, Ohio Pal was at mile 72. So you end up doing 78 the first day, 72 the second. But it was in the mid-60s is what my bike computer picked up on. So overall, fantastic trip. The trail was amazing, and I'd highly recommend anyone to do it.
All right, that was a pretty good recap of your weekend, I think.
I tried, to get it like when I was doing my races and, in the moment and plan some of it out. But then day 2, as you had heard, I did the entire thing, quote, day 3. I did it the next day. Yeah. When I say I forgot, we had gotten moving, we had some stuff going, and I'll just go through everything chronologically. If you have any questions up front here, John, I'll go ahead and answer them. Otherwise, I'll just go through everything, and
just go through it. And I made some notes when I was listening to your little file there, and I got a few interjections, just a couple questions.
Okay. So and this is how I like to tell a story. I was actually on my computer today and I was reading a race recap from a race I did in 2014. And I made the joke that like any of my stories all start not the day of, but about weeks before. And so and what I had alluded to on the one show and then kind of said in the sprint episode that I did, this is something we've talked about doing for years. So like I've had so much thought and pre-planning, I should say, going into this, that literally when I went to like get the gear out, I didn't need to buy anything. Okay. I had everything because I've been accumulating it now for years in anticipation. But the actual thought process, Brian, who I did it with, him and I both trained. The Hansen plan did the Pittsburgh Marathon, and now we're like, well, hey, we were out just on literally our first bike ride of like almost the year. I really had not touched handlebars since December, and we're out on our first bike ride, and we're like, hey, we've been talking about this, and hey, like, you want to do it? And when his message the day or two later was, well, that escalated quickly because we looked at it. He asked for a day off, got it. We booked a couple hotels, and and some things started falling together. And so what we were looking at doing, like I said, I forget what's in there. That's why I don't want to recap it too many times. Mm-hmm. The whole trail, and it's either advertised as 330 miles or 350 miles, depending on where you look. Pittsburgh to D.C., comprised of the Gap, Great Allegheny Passage, and the C&O. I don't know what that stands for offhand. Towpath. The Gap Trail goes from Pittsburgh to Cumberland. The C&O goes from Cumberland to D.C. Now, that's why I said it's 330 or 350. The 0 point that says Washington, D.C. is actually 330, but I guess there's some extra mileage on the end you can do if you want to make it 350. So everyone does something slightly different. Right. In my years of researching and all that, it's always been – and there's some things, as much as I've researched, there's some things I just never thought of. So I'm always thinking, how am I going to start in one, get my car to the other, and this, that, and the other, another, have people drive me and shuttle me and all that stuff. So that being said, when Brian said to me, like, hey, I checked the Amtrak, never even thought about Amtrak, and there's an Amtrak from Cumberland to Pittsburgh, and the Amtrak has bike slots on it. Okay, so what he had said is we can drive his Jeep to Cumberland, park it, catch the Amtrak, put the bikes on, Amtrak to Pittsburgh, spend the night, ride 2 days back, the Jeep's there. I'm like, well, that's fantastic. Yeah. That's what necessitated we were going to do it Saturday, Sunday, but all the bike slots were filled for the train for Saturday. So we backed it up a day. We're going to ride Friday, Saturday. And in doing that, that means we're going to go down Thursday night. That just happened to correspond. My dad was supposed to be here weeks prior, had moved and came up that Thursday. He's from southwestern PA. So if he's returning down there, why not just have my dad drive us down and drop us off? And then, and that's when my wife said, hey, she can come and pick us up. So that saves us the Amtrak and that travel and everything. So it worked out good. We booked one hotel room, got at the Holiday Inn Express, North Shore, Pittsburgh. Great facility. It's right there. It's within walking distance. Literally, you can see PNC Park where the Pirates play. It's, walking distance to the Steelers Stadium. There's a lot of food and beverage options. So the first photo I put up was from the night before. We were meeting friends of his down there, and it's across from the point. So I have a photo across the water of the fountain, so you can kind of see what it is farther away. Go to bed. like I said, I compass this in the clips, go to bed, wake up. It's a 1 mile commute from there to the trail. We get on the trail. The trail starts at the point, and we instantly got lost and messed up. But later on the trail, we met up with a couple different groups of people that all did the same thing. And that's because part of it's under construction. So if you actually look, they have a supplementary map that you're supposed to run up through one of these streets in town, like 10 blocks, then you turn and get on it, because there's a Riverwalk section. So we started along the Riverwalk knowing that that's what it's supposed to be. And after you go about maybe a quarter mile, it dead ends to where there's this ramp that they're currently building, but you can't do anything. So you jump off your bike, you're at a parking garage, you end up hiking up, 2 flights of steps, and now you're standing on the side of a freeway saying, what did we do wrong? We're only 5 minutes into this, We found the right stuff. We got on the trail. From there on, when I say it's pretty easy cruising, we cruised out through I don't have a map up in front of me with what it all is, but we cruised for a few hours. We hit the first town, well, not first town. We went through several of them, but the first time we stopped and we were kind of refilled, our water bottles, grabbed some snack bars and such. At this point, when I had some UCAN bars packed, I also had some Lara bars just for a variety, and I had powdered, UCANs, what I was using. Brian was using Gatorade Endurance and something else. You know what I mean? So we each had our own what we were doing. Right. Eat a snack, try to stay out ahead of it, keep rolling. I did and had ordered Vinny's Pure Vitamin Club, the electrolytes pills, because I had taken various ones in the past, and I thought, perfect, those came out at the right time. I ordered them, and I was taking kind of one every hour and a half, 2 hours, and later, and I'll get into it, I should have been taking more.
Okay.
So anyways, we get rolling through, and as we're going through, we at about 10:30, we come to West Newton, PA, and that's maybe 35 miles in. We decided to have lunch, and that seems pretty early for lunch, but it's one of those, do you want to go another 15 miles, 20, 30, 50? You can only go at certain towns. This one was well marked, easy to get to, so we figured, okay, we'll go ahead and just grab our lunch here. We'll eat, and we'll keep rolling. It was really, it sounds weird, plug for my guess. It was one of the best looking Subways I've ever been in. Subway, sandwich franchise. Like really cool done on the inside, top notch, big glass windows overlooking the river and the train trestles and stuff, like now, really cool.
Was it one of those things that, how you're never hungry? I mean, a grocery store always looks good when you're hungry.
Oh yes, and it was. It's one of the first times that I'm going to admit to saying I actually had I went with the 6-inch hoagie, not the foot long, and I had the bread, and it was like the best Subway sandwich I've ever ate. You're 35 miles in, yeah. So and when I say skimming along, it's rail trail, and I did take a lot of video clips, a lot of 30-second clips here and there that I want to try to piece together. I've done no video editing, so we'll see how that works, and that may take me a year. Who knows how long to get that together? But I tried to get some of the neat stuff along the way. So anyways, it's crushed limestone. We're riding along. And then the only two other, when I say interjections before we get to Ohio Powell, maybe 2 miles before the Connellsville one, like off in the woods, I should say, what you can see from the rail trail that we're on, if you look to the left, you can see another old abandoned railway, and the trestle goes across and I thought it would look cool. So I kind of dinged my bell. My friend Brian came back. We got off the bikes and we just went out and looked on it. And then there was some sketchy characters though, where we had left our bikes. So we didn't want to exactly be gone from them for long. Yeah. Yes. So we got back on the bike, and then when I said got back on, I started going up a few feet, and my bike was making a sound like that. I'm like, oh, what? And I looked, and I thought my brake was dragging.
Yeah.
So I adjusted. I can't get it to stop. And then Brian says, hey, you're missing a bolt on your rack. And I looked down. Okay, so one of my bolts popped out. We jimmy rig it with 2 zip ties. Pulls everything back in line, which is good. We only, fortunately, knock on wood, and this is the only repair we had to do. I only had to go 2 miles. We were in Connellsville literally, and that's why if you right up the bike path is a bike shop, and that's why I took a photo of it and put it up there. My bike leaning. When I said we got it repaired there, and that's where I want to interject one of two statements. One's going to be small town Americana day 2. This one was bike people, and bike people are great. I could say the same.
True bike people, exactly.
True. And I say it this way because here's why. I go to push the bike in the front door. Lady says, hey, you got to take it around back to the garage. Okay, no problem. Push it around back to the garage. And there's your true stereotypical bike dude standing there. He's like, hey, man, what's up? I'm like, oh, I lost a bolt. He's like, oh, yeah, you got any Loctite on them? I'm like, no. He's like, oh, that's probably why it backed out. You need to put a little bit of Loctite on it. I'm like, okay. I said, oh, hey, can you put one in and can you back the other 3 out and put Loctite on them? Yeah, man, not a problem. So he takes my bike, in and he's working on it for a few minutes. He wheels it back over to me and I said, hey, all right, what do I owe you? He's like, I don't know, man. Like, just give me a donation to the shop.
See,
awesome.
That's real bike people, right?
Real
there.
bike people. Part 1. Part 2, Brian had went inside and gotten a couple drinks, Gatorade and water. I walked inside then and bought 4 waters. Come back out, we're sitting there, we're refilling our bottles, and then the guy, he then comes back out and he's talking to us for a minute. And he's like, hey, by the way, and he points to the spigot on the side of the building. He's like, if you guys are thirsty, that water's really cold. Help yourself to it. Bike people, just looking to help you out. Sorry, right. I love it. It was like the perfect moment right there. So my first ever ride on a bike at Flatwoods was like that. I came up to I had no idea about any bike. Come up to the first stop 2 miles in, and I get off my bike and the guy sitting there goes, "Are you going to fix that flat?" And I look back at my back tire and it was dead flat, completely flat. Had no idea how to fix a flat. Had no spare tube with me. Yeah. No tools, nothing. And he goes, I'll take care of it. And he had a tube and he fixes up. I said, well, what can I give you for the tube? He goes, no, don't worry about it. Just pay it forward next time. Yep. You'll help someone next time. Yeah. Pay it on. Pay it forward. It's like, and that was my first experience. And I was like, okay, I'm going to like this. Trail runners are the same way. Yep. It's just a certain thing that once you experience it, you get it. So that, like I said, that was 2 miles short. Connellsville's 15, 20 miles maybe out of Ohio Powell. So we ride into Ohio Powell, and 2, maybe 5 miles short of Ohio Powell, I get a cramp. And when I say cramp, out of nowhere, inside of my leg, from my kneecap to my groin, just cramps. And it cramps hard with no warning. And it hurt. And it hurt bad. And when I say bad, I couldn't, I'm standing there and I'm like, Brian's looking at me. He's like, well, try stretching out. He's pulling his pulling his leg up. It was cramping when I was bending it. So I needed to extend it, but I couldn't get off the bike to do it because I couldn't pick my leg up over the bike. I ended up almost doing a split side saddle straddle on the bike, laying it down slowly, dragging my straight leg, and then it was the most provocative move I had to do to stretch something out ever.
You didn't feel it coming on at all? No,
zero. Just out of nowhere, bam, there it was.
We were talking pre-recording, and I told you that happened to me too, but I felt it coming. Mm-hmm. But when it hit, I had to actually almost crash my bike just to get off the bike. Because I could not get off the bike, just like we were talking about. And then, of course, it's clipped in, and I couldn't move my foot to get unclipped. Yep. Luckily, somebody came back. I had been dropped. Yep. Somebody came back to look for me. Yeah. Because I don't know how long I've been laying there. Probably still be there right now.
John, what are you doing to your bike? I know you like your bike, but John,
just laying there. Oh. Luckily, there was a grassy patch there that I could fall into. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, horrible. Yeah. So that's why I say I needed to take more of them. So day 2, spoiler, nothing much amazing happened day 2 because we learned from day 1. Right. So we get there, we get to Ohio Powell, we check in, total ride time day 1 was 5 hours and 41 minutes. We had just under a 14 mile per hour average. Okay. Mm-hmm. 78 miles. Got some food, got some more food, ate like horses because we thought we deserved it. So best tasting barbecue I ever had and ice cream. Not even going to be ashamed to say I had a cone, went back later for a milkshake. It was awesome. So and we went to bed early. I'll come to more wrap-up revelations later. So we go to bed early, and we get up early. And the reason we did was day one, like, so we got on the trail about 8:30. We were on the trail at 5:58 in the morning, day 2. Wow. Reason being is we looked at the forecast, and it was calling for rain and thunderstorms, but it was more like almost like it would be chasing us a little bit. We wanted to get out ahead of it and wanted to try to be in, or at least have as much of it done by the time we got to the other end. Spoiler, ended up being beautiful weather, and we didn't have to worry about it. But that worked out much better as well, because our average for the day ended up being the same, almost identical same pace. I mean, 13.8 miles per hour or whatever. That being said, is there was the long, when I say there was 25 mile of downhill where we were going like 18, 20 versus obviously when we were going uphill at a, 12 to 15 pace. Okay. So we were going slower day 2 in the morning. Obviously you're tired, right? Also interesting was, hey, it was Memorial Day weekend. We saw some people day 1 and a lot of people near the end of day 2. But that morning, surprisingly, not that many people were out on the trail at 6 in the morning. Literally, we saw one person at like just before 2 hours, and the second person like a few feet behind him, and then it was another half hour before we saw the third person. And when I say we saw a lot of wildlife, we must have, when I say jumped, literally they jumped on the trail, either crossed in front of us. Deer. If we didn't see 24, we didn't see one. You know what I mean? I got a couple of videos too, though, where they jump out and look at us like, "What are you doing here?" And then they take off running. And one of them literally ran out in front of us for a mile. And it's funny. I'm not saying funny for them, I guess, but there were 2 of them. One jumped and went across the path. One jumped and went up the path. And I'm like, "Hey, you're now like a mile away from your buddy. Good luck meeting back up." But they will.
Maybe he was trying to get away.
That's it. Looking for a reason. Right. So day 2, uphill, still more. We finally hit the Continental Divide. We got some photos there. Then and that being said, is the markers got a little screwy, and maybe it's just because we're getting a little tired too. But when you look at the markers and they give you the mileages to, some of them said to the Continental Divide, some of them said to the Big Savage Tunnel, some of them said to the Mason-Dixon line. Okay. Those are 3 distinct things, but not each side had all 3. So it's like you'd be going to one, and then so it's like this moving target of where you're going to. But it was pretty cool. So we got our photo at the Continental Divide. Then it's within, feels like 100 yards, you hit the tunnel that I'm talking about, which is this, like, I want to say almost like a mile long, which is really cool going through that. You go over a couple of cool trestles, then you hit the Mason-Dixon line, which I did put a photo of that on Facebook. Like, we put one bike on Mason, one bike on Dixon, and I did like a little panoramic of it, Yeah. And I'm not saying that's the last photo opportunity. That's kind of the last one I took until we got to, to Cumberland. Pedaled downhill, like I said, all the way into Cumberland. Got there, and it was awesome. I mean, I say awesome timing. Like, I was telling my wife when we were expecting to be in, what was happening, updating her along the way, because she's coming from 2.5 hours away to come pick us up. Right. I literally, we got a couple photos. I called her, and she's like, "Well, where are you at?" And I'm like, "Hey, we're down by the tracks and by this 3-story train building. Here's this and here's this." And within like 4 minutes, she was there. So like,
good timing. Yeah.
We're moving from 2 completely opposite directions. One's in a car and one's on 2 are on bike, and 4 minutes different. Perfect. So we kind of got scrubbed up.
That's that ancient Asian art of planning.
Planning. Nice. Yeah, so we got there. We got kind of cleaned, kind of washed off in a bathroom with a towel, and then we went and had lunch there at they call their name, I guess I should say, is the Cumberland, Maryland, but they call themselves the Queen City. I don't know the history behind it. Didn't look it up. But they, so we went to Queen City Creamery, had some grub, had a little more ice cream, and
that just sounds delicious.
Road.
Every part of that name sounded good.
It was awesome. So, it was great. And, we made our way back home, and that, when I say, was kind of the adventure. I have a lot of like post thoughts with it, which are interesting, and some are direct contradictions of each other 5 minutes apart. So sure, I figured I'll stop and let you ask me any of the questions that you have, and then I could go through I guess what I thought of it.
Well, I didn't have, I mean, the one thing when I was listening to it, I mentioned was about the cramp, and, obviously probably should have been taking more of those electrolytes than you were. Was it hot? I mean, you said it was what, like 80 degrees, you said?
Yeah. So day one, maybe 55, 60. Okay. So, I'll go, well, no, starting. Yeah. Starting. That's at 8:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. So by 3 in the afternoon, when I say we're sweating buckets, Yeah, we're stopping and filling our water bottles. I told you in that last 15-mile stretch when we stopped, I bought 4 16-ounce waters.
Right.
Poured 2 of them into my bottles, poured one to top them off, drank the other half of it and the other one, and by the time we got to Ohio Powell, once again, 16 miles later, it was done. So I mean, so within that 1 hour, time span right there, I'm just going to round it to 17 times 4. I mean, I had 68 ounces of water in a 1 hour span there.
Yeah, and the only electrolytes you were taking in were the vitamins.
Very little bit for UCAN, which wasn't enough, and the pills. I should have been double or triple on that, which is why getting out early on day 2 was really nice because it was so much cooler. In the morning.
Yeah.
So
well, that's a lesson learned then.
Yeah. Other lesson learned. And it's funny, like I had gone through my gear and said, I had this. I had the panniers. I also have a trailer. And I said, hey, I'm not taking the trailer because that would be like if I'm camping or more people or whatever. Right. Okay. So, and this is a little bit of a ramble, but hopefully it makes sense. Previously, I had thought 2 things. One, you have to go Pittsburgh to DC because you want to go uphill and then shoot down it. Right. And secondarily, I thought I could do that in 3 days. While on the trail on day 1, when I say we're pushing, we were catching some people, as I had said, that had left hours before us, right? But we're, once again, our moving average ends up being 13.8. Every time I'm looking at the speedometer, it's like 16 miles per hour. Mm-hmm. But then you factor in your stops and so forth. But these people, or obviously once they going slower, they probably ended at like a 10 or maybe even a single digit, average. Which, if you're going to do it that way, it's going to require more time on the bike, more time in the saddle. But you're not going to perspire nearly as much. But you're going to have to be ready to be out there that much longer. Right. Same thing. That's why when I was doing the math and saying, hey, you can do it in 3 days. By day 2, I looked at my friend Brian and said, this is so much harder than I anticipated. And the reason being is like when I go for 100-mile or a 50-mile or whatever mile ride around here, mm-hmm. I had made the comment in the sprint, I'm going to I do 1,100 feet of climbing in 10 miles or less. You know what I mean? I can do that in one hill here across 3 miles, Right. But if I go 1,100 feet up, it takes me 45 minutes or so to get to the top. But then I get a few miles of coasting or pedaling it out on the downhill side. This was 5 hours and 40 minutes the first day, 5 hours the second day of constant pedaling. It's like it's just like a spin bike in the gym. If I stop pedaling, I instantly start losing speed. You go from 16 to 12 to 10, and you got to like get up out of the saddle and kind of sprint a little bit to get it going again. There was no rest. So it was a much different style of riding, just constant than I was used to. So midday 2, I said, "There's no way you can do this in 3 days. Not me, not the shape I'm in." Mm-hmm. Reevaluating that a day or 2 later, I think you can. But it once again, I don't think you're going to maintain that 16 pace when you're going. You have to slow it down and do it at the 10 to 12 mile per hour pace. You have to anticipate instead of 5.5 hours, you're going to be out there 7-8 hours moving, which was going to equate to 8 to 10 hours by the time you get going. Right. But if you can pound that with leave early in the morning, like I said, before it gets hot, and get most of that work done before the day gets really hot, I think it'll work out. The only piece of gear that I took couple things that I didn't use, and I said it was my in case of emergency stuff. Like I took a little, like when I say a little nail set, like I had nail clippers, tweezers, stuff like that, because literally a week or 2 ago, I got a splinter in my foot, needed tweezers to get it out. And that's something you don't want to mess with when you're out there. I had packed some wipes and some Band-Aids and stuff like that. Didn't touch any of that, which was good that I didn't touch it. And I did pack my bike jacket, but it was hot enough and it didn't rain, so that way I didn't need it. I left that in my bag.
It's better to have it and not need it.
Exactly. And the last thing, and maybe this is just for me, I kept saying everybody does it Pittsburgh to DC. I'm in a hilly area. I can do 1,200 feet across 20 miles. I almost want to say, and I don't have this as a point of comparison because I haven't done it, it's just an assumption. I almost want to say DC to Pittsburgh might be easier. Reason being is I went uphill for 125 miles. It was constant. It would be.
I see your elevation here, on Training Peaks. I could see what you did, but that's a lot.
It might be nicer because if you did it across 3 days, I'm just using that as a point, or 4, it would be nicer to hit that hill, and it's either going to end your day or it's going to be in the morning when you're still fresh. Either way, if you did it so you got to the top of that peak, now you have 125 miles of downhill versus 25.
Gotcha.
Might be easier to do.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense looking at this elevation maps on the two of them.
Yeah.
It does make sense to me.
And it's something that you got to know, and I've always said this is why everybody does, because it's nice and flat. It is. But like I said, that was 2 days literally of work, constant sitting, pedaling, going up, If you can really limit that down to let's even say you drop it to I'm going to say a 7 mile per hour average. If it takes you 3 hours to get up that hill, 3 hours is a lot less than, 10.
Well, yeah, right. And you're going to obviously you're going to make it up on the back end of it, but yeah, that's the thing, going downhill, you're faster. It also takes less time.
Yeah.
But
yep.
Yeah.
But overall, fantastic. Had so much fun doing it. We are considering going. When I say considering, we don't have it planned out completely, and it might be tricky with what else other stuff I'm looking at maybe in the fall. When I say going and doing the second half, maybe looking at doing the Cumberland to DC portion. If not this year, I'm definitely going to do it. Maybe in the spring next year. Just for a sense of completion with it, but. I highly recommend it. It was a fantastic experience getting out there and having the opportunity to do that.
Well, it's an adventure, man. That's what it's all about anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Get out there and do something new, and have an adventure of a little, of some kind.
Yeah. And ultimately, long and short. Granted, like I said, I had all the gear because I compounded it through the years. If you have a bike, you can buy a rack for $20. You can buy a cheap set of panniers for $20 or $30. You don't have to have the best ones out there.
Did you use the ones I sent you, or did you have another set?
I had another set. I did not use because that's a real nice, like a suit bag almost.
Yeah,
This one's like a trunk. I actually have 2 sets of panniers. One that's just a left and a right, and they're combined on the top. This one looks like the trunk, but then the 2 sides zip down and the panniers roll out of them.
Gotcha.
So I had more space than I needed. Each pannier was about a third empty. I could have put more in it. I just didn't need to, which is funny when you look at my bike and Brian's bike side by side, because his were about half the size of mine. So he had even less gear. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I used that one. But what I was saying is total, if you plan it and you do it slightly differently, if you're doing it all, like I said, if you have to take the Amtrak, you're going to look at $100 for that. The hotel room on night 1 was $100. The hotel room on night 2 was $100. And so that said, though, is it's not if you're not doing it all alone. I paid one hotel room, Brian paid the other. My dad drove us down, my wife picked us up, so not including a couple of meals. What's a Subway 6-inch sandwich? $8 or whatever. I had $100 into the trip for the hotel room. That's it.
Yeah,
pretty good weekend.
Pretty good weekend. And an adventure, like I said. So something to tell your kids about.
Yeah. Show the photos and say, I did that once.
Get him out there with you in 20 years.
He's been out on some of my training rides. He'll be out on more.
All right. So we're going to end this show at this point.
Ooh, John, dropping some knowledge.
What?
It's almost like you're alluding that we might.
I'm alluding that we're going to keep going. But, yeah, I never know how to end a show. Have you noticed that? I always
always like, okay.
Now
what?
So, okay. So as usual, social media, teamE4E, anywhere on social media, Facebook, Twitter, what's the other ones? Instagram, Tumblr.
I'm not on any of them, so I don't know.
I know.
So just put us in anywhere and see if we come up. And if it looks close, then it might be us. And if it's not, hopefully you enjoy that as well.
Look for it. So, yeah, and if you can, give us a review and let us know what you think. Send us some comments through Facebook or through the podcast apps, and give us some reviews and let us know what you'd like to hear, what you like hearing, what you'd like to hear more of, and we will try to accommodate.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So that's it for tonight. We'll talk to you later.
Have a great night. Have a good week, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Endurance for Everyone podcast. If you have comments or questions for the show, send an email to teamE4E@enduranceforeveryone.com. And remember, swim calm, bike strong, and run steady.